her running mate has his big chance tonight. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for this. I can't wait to see how they do. I actually have high expectations for J.D. Vance and for Tim Walz, though part of me does wonder. I know they put out that statement to CNN that more than a dozen campaign aides interviewed with the CNN saying, oh, he's very nervous and he's not a professional debater. And they say, oh, we swear this isn't lowering expectations. It is lowering expectations. It's an attempt. But part of me does wonder if they're seeing any weakness, any wobbly, answers to the point where they felt they needed to do that. I don't know. What do you guys make of the attempt to run defense and lower expectations mightily to CNN the day before?
Well, Megyn, this guy was in the House of Representatives for years. He's been governor of Minnesota. This idea that he's somehow a neophyte. J.D. Vance is the one who's only been in politics for 2 years. I think it's transparent attempt to, lower the bar. I found it laughable. But you introduced a thought that hadn't occurred to me, which is that in this debate prep, maybe Walz has been so off-putting and weird that they are nervous. I hadn't thought of that. I don't really think that's what's going on, but that's an interesting idea.
We're going to know soon. I don't know. What do you think, Andrew? Do you think there's actually a chance he's been kind of bad behind the scenes and they really are trying to make sure we don't expect too much of him? Or you think he's solid and this is just the expectation games so that anything even approaching a B will be received, as you know, by this media as an A+?
Yeah, well, I think, Megyn, that's an interesting question because I think two things could be true. I think they could be nervous about his performance, and the reason they would be nervous is not necessarily because they think he'll be bad, but because he's untested. This has been a really different campaign they've run, where they've sort of run a basement campaign the way Biden did during COVID, except there's no COVID. They have really kept him away from the press, so nobody really knows how he's going to perform in a public setting like this. Everything has been scripted. Everything has been off the teleprompter. And even off the teleprompter, he hasn't said much. So that's the big unknown. And you contrast that with J.D. Vance, who will walk into any microphone and talk for as long as they want him to talk. I mean, he's on all the Sunday shows. He's out and about. And he's projecting, I think, a sort of confidence that might rattle the Democrats a little bit too, because J.D. Vance seems unafraid. And Walz seems like he's not out there. And then the question is, why not? Maybe it's because he's bad, or maybe it's a strategy.
We don't have to go too far to figure out how Walz does in a debate, because he was the Minnesota governor twice. I mean, he ran and won for Minnesota governor. And we pulled a couple of debate clips. Here's one against Dr. Scott Jensen, who was the Republican he ran against last time. It was fascinating. I actually went back. This is what my team makes me do. I went back and watched that debate. Debbie Murphy pulled me in. Happy birthday, Canadian Debbie. So I did go back and watch Dr. Scott Jensen and Tim Walz. And I'll tell you, for the first 10 minutes, you can't tell who's the Republican and who's the Democrat. You're like, what? Who is that guy? They're so mild-mannered, and they're so, they really want to be seen as in the middle and centrist in Minnesota. And it's kind of amusing just to see from that standpoint. And then eventually it was clear that Jensen was the Republican, and they split on issues like abortion, and they split on issues like how Walz handled the George Floyd riots. That was the only time it got a little spicy. And here's a bit of how that went in SOT 11.
On the sidelines and critiquing, that's not what being governor is. It's making the hard decisions at the time. I'm proud of Minnesota's response. I'm proud of Minnesota's first responders who were out there, from firefighters to police to the National Guard to citizens that were out there.
Anything that has to do with lawful behavior, it seems that Tim Walz isn't there. And he yet says, I'm proud of the way Minnesota responded. Burn that into your psyche, Minnesota.
I said I was proud of the first responders. You may not be, but I was. This was an incredibly difficult and unprecedented incident. I don't care what he says about me. I care what he says about the folks who are out there doing this work.
He means his 19-year-old cooks is what he's referring to.
We have to move on now.
Can I clarify that? And Scott, like so many things, took a clip of where I said, we have a small percentage of the National Guard that is trained for civil defense. Trying to make the claim that this is somehow slanderous of someone who doesn't understand that.
He did just fine, Tom. He actually was pretty strong.
Yeah, look, I think this is transparent, lowering the bar. He is, as Carl said, he was in the House, as you mentioned, two-term governor. He's debated plenty. And I think he's going to do fine. I mean, I'm also looking forward to this debate. I'm not sure how much it's going to matter in the final analysis, but I think it is going to be good television. These guys, I don't think they like each other. It's gotten kind of personal. They're both going to come in with lots of arrows in their quiver. And JD Vance is going to be able to tear him up on all the lies that he's told about his, everything from his record, his military record, to all of these other issues. He's going to hit him certainly on the riots, as well as other things, including abortion, transgender rights, et cetera. And then, Tim Walz is going to be able to turn around and say, JD Vance, you called Donald Trump Hitler and you hated him until you liked him. And now you're, stumping for him. So they're going to have a lot of ammunition to go at each other with. And I expect that they will. And I think it's going to be a very lively debate.
Now, do you guys think, I'll give this one to you, Carl, do you think that each guy will try to make it about the guy across from him on stage, or the two who are not in the room? That JD spends all his time trying to attack Kamala Harris and Tim spends all his time on Trump, or no, it's going to be mano a mano about each other?
Yeah, I think that Tim Walz will attack Trump. I think about half the stuff will be aimed at the nominee, the presidential nominee, and the other half at JD Vance. And remember that comment that apparently got him chosen as the nominee, where he went around calling the Republican ticket weird. That seems to me the latest thing I've heard about Tiananmen Square and Walz strikes me as a classic case of psychological projection, but I won't dwell on that. But to your question, I think that weird comment that Walz kept repeating until he got on the ticket, he aimed at Trump and JD Vance, both of them. So that's how he conducts. That's how he debates this, and that's how he frames it. I think that JD Vance will maybe talk about the Biden-Harris administration a lot, but I don't think he'll get as personal with Kamala Harris. Just a hunch.
Do you owe back taxes? Are your tax returns still unfiled? Did you forget to file for an extension? The October 15th deadline is fast approaching and time is running out. If you have not gathered all of your documents or made any estimated payments, you could soon be targeted by the IRS. After October 15th, the IRS can garnish your wages, freeze your bank accounts, or even seize your property. That's the bad news. The good news is there's help available. Tax Network USA, a nationwide tax firm, has helped taxpayers save more than $1 billion in tax debt. They have filed over 10,000 tax returns and assisted thousands in reducing their tax burdens. And they can help you too. Don't wait. Visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000 for a free consultation. They will guide you through a few simple questions to determine how much you can save. Take action now before it's too late. Visit tnusa.com/Megyn or call 1-800-958-1000. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.